Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about that perfect business email. How do you write an email that will actually get a response? But let me actually, even before that, how many times have you written an email and you've waited and waited and waited and have not received any kind of response? And then you send another email and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for missing your email. I saw it and I didn't get a chance to respond back." That happens more often than we realize in our business world. Whether you are, the industry doesn't matter. Email now has become, people overlook it. It's just that the inboxes are so inundated with information, and as humans, our attention span, believe it or not, is about 2.5 minutes long. So that's, or should I say short. So a lot of times when people get these emails, if it's not clear, if it's not concise, and they don't understand what you want from them, guess what? You're most likely not going to get a response. And a lot of times, thank you, Tiffany, and a lot of times these emails may contain information that's so imperative in terms of the next decision that needs to be made. So in today's live, what I want to talk about is, as a professional, how do we write that email where you're ensured that you will get a response, right? Which is key to moving the project along, which is key to making sure that you're recognized as someone who is writing these emails in a way where there is no confusion about what it is that you want. So if you have your pens and paper ready, here are some things that I really want you to write down so that you have in front of you before writing that email. Right? And so these are the questions that you want to ask yourself. And as I go through these questions, I'm going to explain to you in terms of why this is important when you're writing this email. And then to top it off, I do have a gift for all of you guys. I have an email template that I'm going to provide to all of you on Thursday. So if that's something you want, then you'll have that on Thursday. I'm excited. I just created this and I think it'll be great to have this template. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, should this be an email or should it be a meeting? Or do I just need to pick up the call of my phone and make the call? So that's the number one decision before you even open up a draft, is for you to ask yourself, how important is this information? So let me go back to that, right? If you are going through a go live, if there's a change request that needs to come through by close of business today, that should not be an email, right? Because email will be overseen. You want to say, nope, I need to get this change request information to get it to the change request board by close of business or before that, so that my changes get through. Now, if you were to write an email, guess what? No one's going to see it. Everyone's too busy. And I have made that mistake before, where I've taken something really urgent, put urgent, but haven't received a response because the person was away from their desk or they didn't get to see it in time, whatever the case might be. So first you want to make that decision. Is it an email? Is it a meeting? Or is it a phone call? Think about the urgency of the matter. Don't just jump in an email and expect a response. People are not going to give you a response immediately. Right? Number two, why am I writing this email? What's the purpose behind your email that you're writing it? Is it because you need to get a decision? Is it because you need clarity? What is the purpose behind your email? You want to make sure that you're not just writing an email just to write an email. That's not going to serve you whatsoever. Again, our goal is to be these amazing A-player professionals who understand with every action, what is it? What understanding our purpose behind our action. So why am I writing this email? Right? What are you trying to get? What is the response you're trying to get from the receiver? Really important that you understand that. A lot of times we write these emails just to write them, and then we're like, I'm not really sure how they're going to respond. No, you should already be in your mind know exactly what kind of response you want to receive. Right? And what you want that person to respond and how they're going to respond. Number 4 is really putting in there, how soon do you want them to respond? Is this something you want a 24-hour turnaround on, or 48-hour turnaround on, or longer? right? How soon do you want this? A lot of times we write these emails where we're not clear about what is it that we want, what we want the receiver to respond on, and when we want them to respond on, right? Key elements of an email is that you are very concise and to the point. And a lot of times what I see with emails are these paragraphs. Believe it or not, as much as I deem people important and their message important, I'm sorry, I'm not going to read a 3-paragraph email. I will not. If I don't have the time, if we haven't spoken about a topic and you're not giving me a paragraph maybe for a book, I'm not interested in reading a 3 to 4 paragraph email. So if you're writing 3 to 4 paragraph emails, you need to stop immediately. No one's reading it. No one's really understanding what you're trying to say. It's like almost trying to argue through text message. Not even argue, but maybe trying to make a point through text message. How hard is it for us when we're having conversations with someone to make our point come across in a text message? I always tell people, if it's something important, if it's something that if it means something to you and you want to make sure that your message is received and it is received well, it should be a conversation, either in a meeting, on a phone call, so you can confirm their understanding and that there is no misunderstanding. Most of the issues that we have in the workplace, they are due to misunderstandings. But if people really took the time to say, hey, I hear you, but can you please confirm, right? Which is really hard to do with email. And even if you do confirm, then the person's going back. And how many times have we seen these emails go back and forth and you're in the CC line almost watching this like back and forth and like, can someone please pick up the freaking phone and just clarify this, right? Raise your hand or give me an emoji if you've ever been on the sideline of an email continuously CC'd on things and you're like, oh God, can somebody please take me off of this? So it happens. It's happened with me. It happens with all of you guys, right? And in terms of what happens if you give a due date and you don't hear from the person? What do you do then? Do you CC their manager? Do you then send them another email? What do you do? So your decision point, if you have put down a due date and you don't get a response by that due date, here's what you're going to do. You're not going to CC their manager. That is not a good approach. You're going to create enemies for yourself, so don't CC that manager. What you want to do is pick up the phone, right? I know most of us don't like that. Pick up that phone and say, hey, John, I sent you an email. I know how it can get with our inboxes. Did you get that email? And really, the purpose behind my email was to clarify a point with you in terms of what you brought up in the meeting last week. Do you have a minute now for us to talk about this? John's like, oh my God, Majuba, I'm so sorry I missed your email. Let me look at my inbox. He searches for it. He quickly reads it. And he's like, oh yes, Majuba, I'm so glad you caught that. That's absolutely a risk. Let's go ahead and put that in the risk register. Thank you so much for following up with me. Right? John now has a new appreciation for you because what you didn't do is what every hateful person does, is CC their manager and make John look bad. Have you ever had someone CC your manager on an email where you didn't respond because you were so busy with meetings? We're mostly in meetings all freaking day, right? And you didn't respond, and now your manager CC'd on there, and you're like, okay, great. What a shitty person for CCing my manager when they could have just picked up the phone and called. Raise your hand if you've ever been through something like that. I have. And I did not like that person. And I did confront them. That's one of the things that you do. Hey, look, Kimberly, hopefully we don't have a Kimberly here. I wish you had called me before CCing my manager. Because I got busy with 3-4 meetings back in a row, and I didn't get a chance to respond to that. Next time, will you just give me a call? Thank you, right? And so again, you're kind of setting the tone, and you're showing that person that you're not going to be treated this way. You're not going to be treated this way. You're not going to be the person that's going to be CC'd. CCing the whole world. That's not who you are. That's not what an A player does. An A player confronts. confronts a situation, doesn't hide behind it. And, and I've had people who are like, CC the world, and I've never felt comfortable. And this is when I was not a manager, I was an analyst, and I always made it a point to make a phone call first. And then if I needed to CC, just to kind of show it to my manager, at least that person had a heads up. So you guys got that. Now, the other thing is, right, if you're calling and you're not getting a response, and now what do? Now is a good time to escalate, but you don't really need to blast them through email. You just need to email your manager and say, hey, look, I've been trying to get a hold of John for the past 3 days. Do you know if he's busy with another project? I'm really trying to get a response to this risk question that I have. Your manager may say, hey, you know what? John's wife has been really sick. If he's not responding, here's who you can escalate it to. Do you guys see how we're kind of stepping back and looking at things from the human factor aspect of stuff, and not just assuming that John is a lazy employee or someone who doesn't respond to emails? How many of us have been out of office due to family issues, problems, doctor's appointments, a child being sick, a spouse being sick, a car being broken, and even though we're checking email, we're not able to respond to everything on time. So what you're really doing is you're reflecting, you're being empathetic, and you're pausing for a moment before you put someone else under the fire. That's what an A player does. An A player doesn't immediately assume and make judgments and gets John fired when he's probably maybe going through some personal things, right? I'm a mom of 3 kids. I've given birth to kids every 4 years, and every time I have gone away for, sick leave. And I've appreciated when my coworkers have given me the time when I've come back into the workspace, allowed me the time knowing that, yes, I did have to pump milk in an office, right? And that takes an hour. So, and I haven't had a chance to respond to an email. I have appreciated my coworkers who've understood my situation, because this is how life works. We have to understand each other. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to check your email for a few other things here. Number 1, tone. If you're angry, take a few deep breaths. You do not need to be angry in an email. You do not need to show that you're angry in an email. We're all professionals. Wusa, take a deep breath and write the email from a logical mindset. Don't just throw it out there, right? Don't show your emotions in an email. It's going to make you look immature. If you have done it in the past, that's okay. You know what? Maybe write a draft. Don't put anything in the to box, and just write it, but don't send it. And then reread it again. Get up from your desk, go take a walk, come back and read it, and say to yourself, how would I feel if I received an email like this? Am I misjudging a situation? Am I understanding the full scope of what is happening here? Again, you're reflecting at every moment, professionals. You have to reflect. You have to understand what it is that you're writing and whether you are assuming anything, right? So check for your tone. Check for clarity. Check for grammar. Check for comma placement. There are some memes out there where you see with the comma placement that the meaning of a sentence changes if you don't have the right comma in place. So be sure that you're checking for tone, for clarity, and that you are not assuming things inside of that email. And here's the thing, right? Also knowing how to address someone. I'll tell you, a lot of times people get upset when you call them doctors, even though they are doctors. So part of your research needs to be, how does this person like to be addressed? Do they like to be called a miss or a Mrs. or a MISS or a Mr.? What if they don't adhere to any gender? What if they like to just be a they, right? Our society has changed, and as professionals, we have to be respectful of how a person wants to be addressed. So before saying a Mr. and a Mrs. in this day and age, do they want to be called that? Is that okay with them? Double check that, right? And that's all part of your tone. That's all part of your clarity. And so far, I've covered a few things for those that have joined. I have said to you, ask yourself, is this an email, a meeting, or a phone call? Why am I sending this email? What is the response that I want to get? By when do I want this response? And what do I do if I don't hear from this individual? And is it necessary to escalate and CC their boss in that whole entire world? And can I just pick up the phone and call them? Right? So that's what we have addressed in terms of the questions we need to ask ourselves. Then we're going to check our email for clarity. How does the person want to be addressed? Right? In terms of gender, Mr. and Mrs. and so on. What is the tone of your email? Is it simple, aggressive, or is it neutral? Be sure that your email is clear, and be sure that you're giving the person the actions you want from them. You're sending this email because you want an action. And now, in terms of an email template, I've created one that's really simple, but I want to go over what this template has. When you take a look at this template, you do want to be clear on your subject. Your subject needs to be action required, and then the name of the project, or document review request, and then the name of the project, meeting requested, and then the name of the project. Be clear in your subject line what it is that you want, because that is all people are going to read. And if you miss the subject line, your email might not even matter. Or urgent, need a response immediately. But be cautious with the urgent subject, because if it's urgent, why aren't you picking up the phone? Okay? In the body of your email, you're going to be shocked. You're only going to write one sentence at a time. Here's the email that I wrote. Hi, John, comma, space, next sentence. I hope you're doing well. Period, next sentence. I noticed that you brought up a risk during our 8/18 meeting, and I wanted to follow up with you on that. Here is what we discussed. You stated that if we add the additional coding task to the project, it will delay the project by 10 additional days. And I have that bolded. Next sentence. Do we need to escalate this to management? Question mark. Next sentence. I'm updating the risk register, and your response would be appreciated by 9/9/2021. Thanks, MJ, and then your signature. Simple, to the point. John knows what you want from him. John knows when to respond. John is being reminded of what he talked about. You've restated the risk. You want John to know, do I escalate this or not? But at the same time, if escalation needs to happen, regardless, it needs to go inside of the risk register. Simple, point, you're succinct, you're asking exactly what you're telling the receiver what your expectation is of a response, and voila, you're done. So if you want this template, go ahead and raise your hand so that we can go ahead and send it to everyone. And thank you again for joining another live. I appreciate each of you. Go on and write these amazing emails. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you. Post it in the group or message me. Take care. Bye.